So Tea with Mo lectures on non-duality. This sort of came to me from watching some of Ram Dass's stuff. His lectures on duality. I just love what he's doing. And I think it's really important that people have a voice. I think it's important that people are seen and people are heard as well. And part of the idea of this centre was that people could be seen and people could be heard, and that they could share their, their inner stories with others. We've both been very much, awoken early on, and then went to sleep, and then came back awake, and we've come in and out of, in a sense, consciousness. To the point where we are now, where we both have this wonderful opportunity that we can, that we have enough confidence to have a voice, and we have a space that holds us, and we also have a community that's interested in some of the things that we want to share, and also the other things that we do. The centre's philosophy is based on non-duality, so everything is one. It comes from, we're all fractals of the one thing that we're a part of, and yet it's becoming its own self through our own experiences. So with these sessions, we're always trying to offer a really nice holistic perspective of consciousness having a human experience, and not bypassing the human experience and just honouring consciousness, and not getting also caught up in just the human experience and forgetting that you are divinity, a manifestation of divinity. So it's this holistic approach of, hey, here's the human experience, and here's how it could be related to the non-dual. Here's the dualistic experience, and here's as part of the non-dual experience. So tonight we're going to talk about... Hello, Vicky. I'm joined tonight by my co-director and great friend and mentor, tour mentor and mentor.
Yes.
As well, because that's that. Fellow practitioner. Ali's a occupational therapist in the mental health area in drug and alcohol. I'm was. Well, we still are that. APRA hasn't taken that off us yet. I'm a mental health nurse, psychotherapist. Ali's also a psychotherapist. We teach meditation. We try to embody what we find out about, and this is what we've found, and how we've found it within ourselves, and then share it with others within our clinical experience. Yep. So tonight we're going to cover a couple of areas.
Can I inquire into who's heard of the topics that we're talking about tonight? So the Polyvagal theory? Yes.
I researched it.
Nice. Okay. Yes. And of course you would have heard us talk about internal family systems. So yes. Beautiful. Lovely.
Great.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit about attachment.
A little bit.
Briefly.
Yeah.
So we really want to start with the human experience, because coming to the understanding of the human experience, and then how that's related to... So here's this physical experience, and then this non-physical experience as well. So we'll segment the theories in a sense, and then we'll put them together and see how they blend with other models, concepts and theories as well, to present maybe a greater understanding of what this is that we're actually having right here, right now, that you have had since the time that you were born until the time that you die. It's a temporary experience. It's quite encapsulated, lasts for a period of time, don't know how long that is. Okay. So while we're here, good to get to know what it is. What do I do with this? What is this? Give it a voice in a sense, and then bring it back to non-dual. Cool.
So polyvagal theory, I came across it, I've lost track of the years, really. Quite a number of years ago. It was really in the beginning stages of this getting shared with the community in the mental health field. I just stumbled across it, and automatically, straight away, it just really resonated with me. And one of the things that I love about the polyvagal theory is it's de-shaming. It helps people to understand why they have their responses, their reactions, the way that they do, and that everything is natural and everything is done in the service of survival. And when you get an understanding around this, then it helps you to understand how you act in the world, your responses to things. So I loved it, particularly when I'm working with clients that have trauma. Then, you know, these people feel very broken, and that there's something wrong with them. And so having an understanding of this model really helped to see, wow, that's really intelligent, my nervous system, what it's done for me in order to protect. And it's the same with the model of internal family systems. And so we're going to give you a very brief overview of each of them and then talk about them together. So the polyvagal theory, poly meaning more than one, and vagal in reference to the vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve, so in the brain, and it's the largest cranial nerve. And it actually goes from the brain stem, so downwards to pretty much all of the organs in the gut and in the body, and then up into the face. And so it helps you to respond to cues of danger and also safety. So it's a way to be able to keep you safe from a physiological point of view, mainly. Internal family systems, this really is a model that's like a psychological model that when our system gets so overwhelmed, typically that happens when in childhood, and the system can't cope with that. So in order to maintain survival and, you know, not feel like it's going to be annihilated, it creates what we call parts. So, you know, we all have parts of us. You know, there's a part of me that wanted to come tonight to listen to this information. There's a part of me that wanted to stay home because it's a beautiful storm and it's raining. Yeah. So we all have parts of us that sort of compete. So anything else briefly you want to speak about?
So the polyvagal being from the reptile into mammalian, so evolutionary part of the brain. Okay.
Yes.
So you might have an experience that the system will take you away, and you go, oh, I've got no control over this, and I love the de-shaming. So in the de-shaming, then there's also compassion that can come from my experience as well as the experience of others. The parts work is also a de-shaming model, because it allows me to have compassion that someone else is speaking from a part. That's why they're activated, that's why they're agitated, that's why they're confused, that's why they're shutting down. Yeah. And we want to bring how those two fit together, because these are physiological experiences that we have.
And when we have a physiological experience, we also create a story from that. So we create negative cognitions from the physiological experience that we have. All right, so polyvagal theory. So we all come into this world wired to connect. It's imperative for mammals, for humans and for mammals, to connect to another human, the primary caregiver, in order to survive. Because without that, you can't get fed, your needs are not met. So we come into this world wired to connect. And with the polyvagal theory, this is a model that is looking for that connection and it's also looking for where there's cues of connection and safety, and therefore connection, and also cues of danger. So as infants, when you come into this world and you're hungry, you have these experiences inside of the body that's confusing for you, and as infants we cry, and then our needs are met. If those needs are not met, then those cues of danger are alive in us. And so from a polyvagal lens, it sends us into 3 different states. So there's 3 different states in the polyvagal. So, and I like Deb Dana's work, how she puts it on a ladder. So if we have a look here, this is the ladder. And so when we feel safe, when we have, as infants, all of our needs are met, and our primary caregivers are attentive to us, and they pick us up and they nurture us and they feed us and, change us, then we learn to trust. We learn that it's safe to have a voice, to cry out, and we learn that our needs will be met. And so we're up here in this ventral vagal area. Actually, it might be worthwhile me speaking where ventral vagal comes from. Mm-hmm. So, sorry, I'm just backtracking a little bit here. So this comes from the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system, it's all automatic. Your breathing, your heart rate, your pupil dilation, your body temperature, all of that you don't have to think about. It's just done automatically for you. And it helps to keep you alive, to keep you, to regulate you. If you had to think about it, then basically you'd be dead, because you couldn't sleep, or, if you were about to step on a snake, or, you can't think about those things. It has to happen automatically. So this is the autonomic nervous system that keeps us alive and regulates our system. So within the autonomic nervous system, so they used to think that there was two aspects of it. So you're either in a fight or flight, or you're in a rest and digest. So there is what they call a sympathetic nervous system, which is when you have cues of danger, or you need to move, your body is needing to mobilize, to move, to do something, to take action. So if you're faced with cues of danger that somebody is about to punch you, you either do 2 things. You either respond with punching back, as an example, or you run away. So it's a fight or flight system. In the polyvagal model, we call it a mobilization. There's energy that gets sent around to the muscles to make you move. So they used to think that it was either a fight or flight or a rest and digest. And that's the parasympathetic nervous system. So this is the calm state. So, but with the work of Stephen Porges, so back in 1969, he discovered that there's actually 2 branches of the parasympathetic nervous system. So not only is there this, the 2 branches come from So one is the dorsal vagal and one is the ventral vagal. And the dorsal, if you think of a dorsal fin, it's anatomically where it sits at the back of the brain stem. And then the ventral is a word for the front. Okay, so there's 2 branches of it, and that's where. Let me go back up. So 2 branches of the parasympathetic nervous system are here in the ventral vagal on the ladder, and the dorsal vagal on the ladder. So let's start with the ventral vagal. Ventral vagal is where we have all of our needs met. There's much more cues of safety than there are of danger. So here we feel open, we feel we have expanded awareness, we trust in the world, we trust in ourselves. We have this ability to be able to have, because the ventral vagal anatomically attaches into the face and the eyes. So when I'm speaking to you like this with expression in my face, and I've got prosody in my voice, so like this, people tend to be in a ventral vagal, feeling safe kind of state, yeah? And we can connect to another. I can look at you in the eyes and we can connect on that level, yeah? Because there's safety in the system. The other thing about the ventral vagal is that it links into the ears. So it links into the middle ear muscles where we can hear all of the range in voice, in the human voice. So we can hear all of the pitches, all of the prosody in the voice. If we start to receive some signals of danger that's coming in, and that might be either danger that's coming in the environment or in our bodies or something in the ethers, in the space between us. So we start to pick up on these signals that something's not right. So we start to slip out of this ventral vagal, and then the hairs go on the back of your neck, and you start to feel, a little bit tense. So blood starts to come into the muscles. Actually, our eyeballs, our pupils start to get a little bit dilated. We start to fix our sight onto where we perceive the danger to be. Our ears get tuned into either high-pitched sounds or low-frequency sounds. Because what is happening is we're starting to slip down on the evolutionary scale of where before we became human and these mammals, we were, it was about 2 million years ago, actually, that this ventral vagal aspect came in. But prior to that, hierarchical, and we were picking up on predator sounds. So those low frequency sounds. So when you start to feel a little bit in danger, and you start to hone your ears, and you start to get a little bit rigid. So that's where we're starting to slip into the fight or flight, so the sympathetic nervous system. And it's what we call the mobilization system, because we need to mobilize, we need to do something. This is the action part of things. So you're either getting prepared to fight back or to flee. Now, if those signals of danger continue and there's nothing you can do about it, say the predator is too big for you, say you're in an environment where you can't run away, then we slip into the most primitive form of the ventral vagal. So on the evolutionary scale, so 5 million years ago, we had this branch. That was the only branch that we had. And you might see it in some reptiles when they go feeling cues of danger, they just collapse. So it's a way of staying in safety, so they will just shut down. And so you get these pain endorphins that get released in the body, Because if you're about to be eaten, if you're about to die, then the nicest way to do that is to just check out. And also, in terms of survival, you might have seen, say, in Africa, you know, the scenes where the lion is chasing the deer. And the deer is running and running and running, so cues of danger is happening. So they're mobilizing, like, get the hell out of here, run away. And then the lion comes and grabs it around the throat, and then the deer just collapses. So it's overwhelming. This is a life-threatening state. So it collapses because there is nothing else it can do but submit. And then what happens, the lion sort of looks away and sort of seeing if there's another predator around. And then the deer sort of gets up and shakes itself off and runs away. Like, it comes back up into that mobilization again, and quite often will escape because of that. So this is hierarchical. So this is what happens in our systems as well. So this is safe and connected to all others. This is in our sympathetic nervous system, in this mobilization, the fight or flight. And this is in life threat, complete shutdown and overwhelm. So what you will see in this is sensations, or what you will see is collapse, it's tiredness, and it's along a spectrum. So somewhere along this spectrum here, like right down the very bottom, this is fainting. If taking action, it's like just suicidality, like checking out. But it's right down the bottom here. What you'll see in another, if they're in that dorsal vagal state, is fainting, or a little bit up from that is what we call catatonia, where people cannot speak, cannot move, cannot do anything. And then a little bit higher up, you might see somebody that is what we call flat affect. So if you know how you see some people where they're just staring at you like this, and you know, they might be talking, you know, in this monotone. So there's no movement in the eyes or in the facial features. There's no movement in the prosody of their voice. Yeah.
Even their body might be slumped over, enclosed, constricted.
Yes.
So they're beautiful examples of the physiological experiences and states that we move from into, and then imagine what that would look like if your physiology was reflected into your psychology. So what would be the psychology of some of the movement up and down the ladder? Yeah.
And this is where our parts can come in. So in polyvagal theory, it is understood that state, we call these states, so ventral vagal, sympathetic, or mobilization, and dorsal vagal, they are states. So what state am I in? Right now, I'm in ventral vagal, a little bit of sympathetic activation because I'm here presenting to you all. You know, it's being recorded, and I want to be careful what I say. I want to get that information across correctly. So our state creates our story. And this is where the parts work comes in. And I just want to talk a little bit more around trauma. So, you know how I said that our autonomic nervous system it's constantly scanning for cues of safety or cues of threat. So for those that have had a secure attachment, they tend to have, and all their needs are met, they tend to have more cues of safety than they have of threat or danger. And so they tend to have, we get a kind of a default, and they tend to operate more so in this ventral vagal, and they're really able to connect with others, and they see the world as, you know, I'm okay and you're okay. The world, you know, it creates this story here. The world is a good place to be. There's so many opportunities in this world. There's always more love. There's a story that gets created because they feel in safety. For those people that have had trauma in their life, particularly, you know, a lot of trauma, we get what we call a default. So your default, depending on what was happening at the time, so there might have been, say, a lot of domestic violence in the household, yeah? And so there might have been a lot of running away, or there might have been, it depends on your age. So if you're too little, it's very hard to fight back, to get the belief that I can fight this one off. So we tend to run away. But there may have been domestic violence that might have started to happen more in adolescence, for example, and where you're starting to get some testosterone in the system, and you know you're fighting back. So if that's been your experience of trauma and threat, then there can be this default that happens. And so the default can be this aggression, this fighting back, or this fleeing, this running away. For others, if the child was too small, or if the person was too domineering, and that was happening either regularly, or even sometimes it can just be a big T trauma, you know, sexual abuse, for example, for a child, or some of the other big T traumas, where you are just too small to be able to fight back, to do anything about it. You get this, so our brains is wired to remember things and repeat it and do it again. So that's kept you safe, so do it again. So we get wired for these defaults. So I know my default is shut down, because that was my trauma in early childhood. So it's taken me a long time to help to regulate myself. So so when it's happened to you in those early childhood experiences, it then creates a story for you. So now, when you have similarities in the story, so for example, you know, my story was, you know, I don't matter, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, yeah? And so when I start to experience the triggers, and that can be a physiological trigger inside the body, or if I recognize some people that give me a similar that look similar to the perpetrator, for example, then it impacts on my story, and then it shifts my physiological state. Does that make sense? So now sometimes it can go both ways. So the story can impact on the physiology, and the physiology can impact on the story. Yeah. So when we are children, and we can't regulate ourselves, this is where parts come in.
Yeah, neuroception.
Yeah, let's talk about neuroception.
Yeah.
This was meant to be.
This is a huge subject.
It's a huge topic,
and we're trying to give you, hey, this is really important. This is really important, and this is how it fits in.
Yeah.
And we also said that we probably wouldn't get it done in one.
Yeah.
Because we also want to add, what do you do?
Yes.
How do you shift out of? It's
Yes.
not just, okay, here you go, this is what's happening for you, good luck.
Yeah.
This is what's happening for you, and this is how you can move out of this space. And I think it's going to be a two-part. We are recording, so then you can, if you're not here for the second one, you can get to see it.
This really is a whole workshop in itself.
Yeah, this is a 2-day, 5-day. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do one. Yeah, I was going to say.
We did mention that today, so thank you for that validation.
So there's 3 organising principles of polyvagal theory, and the first one I've kind of mentioned, and that's the hierarchical. It's the evolutionary. So when I say hierarchical, what I mean by that is that if you've had a secure attachment and in your upbringing, then we're in this ventral vagal state. But the more we detect cues of danger, then the hierarchy sort of drops, and we're coming into that mobilization. And then if we have too many signals of danger, then hierarchical will go back into the most primitive form, which is the dorsal vagal. Yeah. So hierarchical is, we started off with dorsal vagal, evolutionary speaking, 5 million years ago, and then we developed mobilization, so 4 million years ago, and then 2 million years ago we developed this this sense of safety and this ability to be able to connect to other species in order to maintain safety. Yeah, so that's the hierarchical. So the next concept is really important. They're all important, but it's called neuroception, and this was a term that was coined by Dr. Stephen Porges. So neuroception. So this is beneath the level of awareness, beneath the level of, it's not perception, because perception is what we use in the cognitive, in the thinking. So this is far beneath the level of awareness. This is what we pick up on in our bodies. So if you are hungry, if you are sick, if you have something going on that is sending you signals of danger in the system, if you're tired, then your neuroception will be picking up more signs of danger than if you were well, if you were satiated, if you all of those things. So this is why, as when my children were growing up, my daughter particularly, and she'd be starting to cry and, oh, woe is me and all of the, honey, you need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to, that you need all of those basic needs met first in order to start to feel safe. When you've done that, then come back to me and we'll address this problem, yeah? And that was something that was also needed to help with my clients I worked with kids. And so those basic needs needed to be met first, and then we can start to move up the ladder a little bit. So that's what's going on inside the body. We're also picking up on neuroception in the environment. So we're constantly scanning. So I'm looking at your faces, I'm looking at your postures, and there's no signals of danger to me because I've got kind faces in front of me. You're all sitting down, and you're at my level. But if I was being presented with this, in front of me, angry faces, or if you were posturing against me, then my neuroception is going to start to pick up on signals of danger.
Or even if people didn't appear interested.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Or if they're yawning. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
If they're looking around the room.
Yes. So it's that, how am I feeling into this? Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what's, and the other thing is, and this one, I really want to mention this. So noise is a big one that sits in beneath the level of awareness. So where I used to work, I was right up against a window, And outside of that was the major generator of the air conditioning for the whole building. So this low tone noise all day. And sometimes, when I say all day, sometimes it would turn off and then turn on. But there was no predictability about this. Humans need predictability in order to feel safe. So this noise was sending signals to my neuroception of danger. Remember I said about those low frequency tones? The predator sounds? So that's what my neuroception was picking up on all day. So not only was I working in a stressful environment because of the work that I did, but because of the noise pollution that was happening, I was constantly on alert and sending cortisol into my system, telling me I'm in danger. So, you know, and we'll talk about how I manage that in the next session. So for those of you that work in noisy environments, be aware that that could be what's stressing you out. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just briefly slip into epigenetics with neuroception?
Yeah.
Okay. So, neuroception is the felt sense in this system and in the space between other systems. So it's the space between that I'm feeling into subconsciously, but I'm also aware of. I'm just noticing. Yeah.
It's the energy between us.
It's the space. It sits within the space. Okay. And so when we start to look at neuroception, is that when did neuroception begin? Was it when we came out of the womb? Well, when we start to look at perinatal health, we're looking at the experience of the child while it's in the womb in vitro, or in utero, I should say. So in utero, the child is experiencing the mother's neuroception. So then we also look at genetics and DNA and codes. These neuroceptions are then placed into our genetic codes. And when we start to look at ancestral trauma, we're going back 14...
Well, there's some research that says it's 3 generations. There's others that say it's as much as 14 generations.
Okay. So you will have ancestral trauma that could be passed down in your genetic code because of the neuroception that has occurred many ancestries ago. Okay. So see how so from a spiritual perspective, if we're actually choosing to come into a family, into a particular environment, you're also looking at the genetic history of neuroception and trauma that is a legacy for that family. Okay. So, in a sense, you're coming in already pre-wired to have a particular type of experience or read your world in a particular way. From a soul perspective, from a consciousness perspective, choosing to have a human life. Now, that's not polyvagal theory. However, that's the non-dual lens of this. This is where it can extend into. Yeah.
And just while we're talking about the neuroception and how we can pick up on the epigenetics of generations before, so what can happen is that it can wire our nervous system, so we can get a kind of a faulty surveillance system that happens right back from, with that epigenetics, right from the beginning and in your mother's womb. If mum was always stressed, or if there was, lots of loud noise, or, so your system can be a little bit, your scanning system can be a little bit faulty. And with the experiences that we've had around trauma in early childhood, we can have as I say, a faulty surveillance system. So we can pick up on signals of danger when there actually isn't any danger. So for example, walking in here, in this space, coming in here for the first time, people may pick up on signals of danger when there actually isn't danger. But because of their experiences in the past, where they've walked into a new place and there's been violence in the room, or there's been something that's happened, so their scanning system is picking up on cues of danger when there actually isn't any. Yeah.
Mindful of time.
Yes. So that's neuroception, and it's important for us to tap into what's going on, and to be picking up on signals that are going in our system, and also to be aware where it's been a little bit faulty. The last one, before we kind of do a bit of a we're aware of the time, there is so much in this, is around co-regulation, and I kind of touched on it in the beginning. We come into this world wired to connect. We need another to help to regulate us. We don't come into this world already knowing what to do to soothe our system. We need a primary caregiver to do that for us. And so this is what we want to bring into our next talk on the importance of having another to help you to co-regulate. One of the things I want to just say before we do a bit of a summary of this is that, again, I want to really reiterate that the de-shaming nature of these models, so both the internal family systems, how parts are created when our system is overwhelmed, we have too many cues of danger. There's parts that come in and help to protect us. We didn't talk too much about parts tonight just because of the time. There are other videos that Maurice has done around internal family systems and parts work. It's really worthwhile having an understanding around it. But those parts were created all in the service of survival, all with the intention of protecting the system. When we slip in out of this connection with others, so if you meet another person who appears angry, who appears disconnected, who appears shut down from you, who appears as though they're staring through you, who appears as though they're disinterested, it's all because they don't feel safe. It is, and when we can start to understand these models and the frameworks that this is coming from, and the responses that people have, it can help you to connect more with that person. It can help you to have compassion for self and for others, to help you to understand why you did or didn't act, or why the other person acted or didn't act in the way that you would have hoped. So there is so much more I would love to share with you. Shall we do a bit of a summary? Is there anything else?
Yeah, because we really just touched on Polyvagal today. Yeah. Another way that I really like Polyvagal is the 3 Ds. So devoted, driven, or devoid. So when you're devoted, you're in ventral. I'm connected to others. I see that there's more love, there's greater acceptance. It's an open-heartedness. So I'm devoted to self, devoted to others, devoted to life. When I'm driven, so that's the SNS mobilisation. Even those parts of us that are achievers, got to get stuff done. Just push on through. See how it's a drivenness. Some people might even say, I'm really motivated today, and see how we look at motivation as being a great thing. And well, maybe it's actually a part. I'm in this mobilisation. Yeah. And then there's the devoid. Devoid is, I'm going to shut down. I can't be. I'm not her. I just want to go back into my cave. I'm feeling pretty low. I think it was really beautiful how you explained with the cranial nerves and also the nerves around the face. So starting to see that, notice when you're devoted, when you're in ventral, there's more prosody within your voice, more, eyes are open, lots more facial movements, and lots more connection. So I'm in ventral at the moment. I can really feel that. When we, offer cacao and when we're, sitting with people, we're really in this, open-heartedness, and that's what this place is about. This place is about introducing people to the ventral state. I think also to talk about meditation, because meditation, you're in ventral, but you're in a dorsal state.
Yes, so that's one thing we didn't mention is that you can have blended states. So when we're in meditation, so when we feel calm and connected, then we feel safe, but we're also relaxed, yeah? When you are in a blended state of feeling safe and also mobilized, we play. You can move and you can, you can play, you can move.
Inspiration could even be that inspired to move, I'm being moved with inspiration, that sort of thing. Yeah. The breath work is also, that's holotropic, it's moving, and yet I'm noticing, I'm connected to. So it's not I'm in one state. Next conversation we'll have is how different parts are quite reflective of the states.
Yeah, let's do that, because we were going to integrate the parts and the polyvagal today, but there is so much of this in these models. So let's next time talk more about the parts and how they're connected with these states. And depending on time, but we would really like to give you what to do to help to shift your state. Like to talk to you more about people's default, how we can recognize that in another and how to support that person. And if there's one thing I really want you to take away from this is to have compassion and understanding that that people, the way that they present is all in service of survival. Yeah, and so I'd like to amplify that a little bit more next time as well.
Yeah. So maybe something to consider for people in between these times is the noticing of these states.
So even if you're noticing in another, how much expression do they use in their facial features? Are they able to look at you in the eyes? Because if they do, they're in that ventral vagal state. If people are talking at you like this and they have their eyes sort of moved away, there's threat in the system. So notice in yourself, where are you? What state are you in? How do you feel? Do you feel connected? Do you feel safe? Are you able to look at people in the eyes? Can you pick up on the intonations of voice? When do you feel in that mobilization, in that SNS, the sympathetic nervous system, where you're not looking at people in the eyes, you're tuning into, what was that sound? Hypervigilance. The muscles are contracted. When are you in that state? When do you feel in shutdown? And this is where we're really wanting to disconnect from people. We want to just go to sleep. We want to avoid. And also one other thing is you will change. You will flow through these states throughout your day. It was about 2 hours ago, I was having a nap. I was in dorsal, shut down. Yeah, it was too much, too overwhelming for my system. This morning I was in ventral. Right now I'm noticing my body's shaking a little bit. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit too many cues of, I'm in SNS. Yeah, so we will fluctuate throughout our day. So I encourage you to notice what state are you in at any given moment in time. And then next time we'll talk about how to shift your states.